So you might have noticed a bit of a gap in upload times. And that's mostly because I've moved house. I'm in a different house. And I did have the option, of course, to dedicate, time and effort and stuff to make sure that I was still producing videos. But as well as there not really being anything to film, I just had a lot of other things going on in my life. Moving is never fun, so I didn't want to bog myself down trying to film that. Anyway, now that I'm in a new house, I am going to have to install all of the stuff that was in the old place. One method that I'm trying to use to organize the house and figure out where all the furniture and stuff goes, because this is a smaller house and a smaller property than what I was previously in, is I'm using an application called Sweet Home 3D. And as someone that's used very many 3D software application designing, building game engines and stuff, I think this application is terrible. I don't like using it at all, but I was dedicated enough that I decided I would build the whole house in this application. And I've come this far, so there's really no point in me jumping into a different application to try and figure that out as well. I've never built a house in an application other than The Sims. Now, aside from the garage needing to be set up, I've also got to figure out this little wardrobe. This is going to be my network closet. I've already got a 48 port gigabit network switch sitting there in the corner. That's just there to see if the fans in it will annoy me at all. So far, they don't seem too bad, but I'm just going to leave it running there until I get my main computer set up, which more or less looks like it's set up. Nothing's plugged in. I've merely just sat everything in place, seeing if there's things I want to change or anything like that. I've fully pulled it apart and cleaned everything out, so it should be running pretty smoothly. But what I need to work on next is the way that I'm going to hide the wires and stuff. I'm going to have this plastic channel run from the ground in the corner here. And it's going to run all the way up to the top. And I'm going to put two little round holes overlapping in the top and the bottom, which will allow me to run the network cables through the roof as well as under the house. I've got this plastic channel here, and it's about 4 meters long, but the only other options I was able to find when I went to Bunnings was either metal channels and stuff, which didn't really work out for what I want, or this really cool one that's actually made for cables to go in and out at different points, except it was only 2 meters. No other lengths, so it was only 2 meters. And I need 2.86 meters. So I'm going to measure this out. I'm going to cut it down to the 2.86 meters, and then I'm going to put it into the wardrobe so that I can see where I'm going to need to make little grooves cut out of it for some of the trimming, as well as where the wires are going to actually be coming out from that. But first, I need to drill a couple holes to run the cables through. I'm specifically doing it in the corner of the wardrobe because usually in the corner of rooms and stuff there's already a hole for an aerial cable. She's a bit dusty. Admittedly, I did think under here was going to be a little less dusty. This part is never fun, but at least I have something to stop too much dust from getting in my lungs and stuff. So I've got a jersey on because my elbows are going to be all on the ground. My knees are on the ground. Oh man, maybe bring a big vacuum cleaner down here or something. Oh, what a crap. Everywhere I got some cables running around. This is the phone line cable for the built-in alarm system to the house. As you can tell, I haven't been very tidy with it. Here's some power. That's interesting. I think I'm not going to run the power up through the roof at this house. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's my cat in the far distance. Okay, so initially I thought this was my room. Must be over there. Let's just have a quick look. What's actually keeping this up here? And staples. Okay. That's there. I'm definitely... I can't be very far from my goal. So one key thing about travelling under the house like this is you got to make sure you keep an eye out so you don't bonk your head and knock yourself out and get stuck. Getting stuck under your socks. The other part that sucks is when you can't find where's my cables. I don't know how far through I need to go though. Okay, here's a power lead. Went up into the wall there. So I'll keep that in mind. There's an aerial cable, so I would say I'm actually surprised that it comes right out to the deck here. But I would say over here should be my network cables. Yes. Now I've actually brought down my staple gun and stuff, but I've suddenly decided I don't want to be that good. There are other messy cables besides mine. Uh-oh. Old Dutch oven. Here's the wall. So this is a bedroom. So these cables only running over to here. Is this it? Oh, here it is. Here it is. All right. I'm gonna be a dick and rip it out like that. Oh, my eye. Here we go. I could pull this through, or I could stick it back up. I've pulled it through. Okay, here's my 3 network cables. So this one is going to be for the direct connection to the ONT internet fiber receiver. This blue one, this might be for Wi-Fi only, and this black one will be for the TV and infotainment system. Let's just pull through a good amount. Oh great, it's stuck. There's a reason companies charge a lot for this, because this part sucks. But done the hard yards. All right, doesn't look like it's gonna fall out from there. So that is our main 3 cables installed. And now I'm gonna get out because yeah, actually I really should have paid attention to those. Okay, I'm quickly gonna go back. This isn't the worst. I've been into some pretty bad places. Oh, okay, so that's there. So there should be one over there. It'll be on the other side of that. Okay, so that power cable there. Might tap into it at some stage, but not today. Oh, fresh air. Oh my gosh. Oh, oh, yeah. Whew. That is never much fun. Oh, and look at this. Some cables have magically appeared from the underhouse ferry. These cables will run up the wall here and plug into the switch and router that will be attached to the wall here. When I was at Bunnings, I was also looking for a piece of wood that was a reasonably specific size, but flexible enough for it to be an offcut or something like that. But no matter where I looked and no matter who I asked, I couldn't find the right size or offcut. Well, it was one that was kind of the right size, but it was also like 2 meters long, and I only needed about 30 centimeters of that. So I found 2 pieces of wood, screwed them together, and this will be sort of my building plate. This is where I will screw the network switch into, as well as my router, my PoE switch, a Raspberry Pi, and anything else that I need to screw into it. And then I've got this little part here, so that I only need to screw 2 screws into the house, so that, I don't want to be causing damage to the house. Rip it out like that. At my last house, I actually had a dedicated power line run to the fuse box with its own fuse for my network closet to run the cameras and my little server and Raspberry Pi and stuff. This time though, I'm just going to patch off this plug port here, which is on the other side of the room by my computer. And the reason why I'm willing to do that this time is, last time it was my workspace, where I tinker and work on things, and occasionally, playing with high voltage like that, something's going to blow up. And I didn't want that to affect or damage the camera system or any of the interworkings there, which is why I ran its own line. Here, I don't really need to worry about that as much, because that's going to happen out in the garage. So, hopefully, I'll be able to just run this cable down the wall. I can see exactly where I need to feed this. If I'm successful at this, I can hook up power and data today and actually make a start on my little server closet there. Ironically, I'm still going to be putting a hole in the floor here for networking to the computer that's going to be here. Need to use my hand. Okay, feed a whole lot through. Just feeding enough that it'll be also super obvious. Feel this end. I'll pull it like this. I'll pull it around the network cables so that they don't get tangled. Alright, so see? This is coming down. You can see we've got the power cable dangling here. We got this. So I'm going to use this little brass bit on the end. I'm trying not to think about what the camera's leaning on right now. But it's not a rock. It looks gross. Alright, so I'm going to take a little bit of the tape off the end here, because I did messily put it on there. So I stick the wire through this little hole here. And then I'm going to mix and mingle it with another wire, twist it on like I'm making a connection, give it a little bit of twisting there, and fingers crossed she holds. So I'm going to start my tape down a little bit. I'm going to do the same tape motion as I was doing before, pushing up from down, because this ensures that the way the tape overlaps is that it's the least likely to snag. So if I get this wrong, then the cable's going to come off. I'm going to have to come down here. I have to do this part again. I don't want to do that. That would suck. I'm going to install a twist tie. A little twist tie thing. Just a simple little... And it's done. Okay, so where's the hole? This is all up, out of the way, and won't get twisted. I'm going to leave this dangling like this. So I've got enough to go. I've even got enough that it could go up in the hole if the hole was big enough. And I am making the assumption that the hole might just be big enough. Let me have a look at this hole again. It's a tight squeeze, but it might just be big enough.
Adding a couple more twist ties along the way, I'm able to keep this power cable up and off of the ground, in order to try and make sure it stays out of harm's way.
Pull this feed up. Alright, felt where the cable starts, so here we go. Here's our cable. Here it is. Ah, perfect. Hey, look, we even got some of the orange up.
With the power now run, I'm able to tidy up some loose ends and get some network cables terminated that I'd previously run, install my network switch and router board onto the wall. Considering previous to this, everything was just sitting on the floor in the living room, this is a much nicer and much tidier setup.